Now, page 4, reviving the presidential free shot to educate about impeachment, the weekly presidential address. Advisors to President Trump apparently do not think speaking directly and unfiltered to the American people is of value to this republic and to the 45th president of the United States. Well, I'm sorry, but those advisors are wrong. The weekly presidential address has its roots in one of the most infamous moments in American history, Franklin Roosevelt, proffering weekly radio addresses in the 1930s and 40s during the Depression and on into World War II. Fireside chats, remember? It's very much a part of U.S. history. And it's crucially important right now that this president looks eyeball to eyeball with the American people and explains what he is doing to advance our freedom and liberty while putting into constitutional perspective what the radical Democrat leadership is doing and how it's harming that process. President Trump needs to use the weekly presidential address to educate the American people about the Democrats' abuse of power by politically weaponizing impeachment. Presidents should explain to Americans the history of impeachment, per the framers of the Constitution, and how it's a method of last resort, and how there is no basis for it right now. However, someone inside the Trump administration stopped the weekly presidential addresses cold. This is a mistake. After all, both radio and television and countless internet platforms clear the weekly address unedited. What better way for President Trump to get out his unfiltered message? It is a presidential tradition, a political free shot, if you will, and an educational tool that could and should be revived by Team Trump immediately. Meantime, the Democrats are taking full advantage of their weekly address, using it to advance their radical agenda. Case in point, Congressperson Haley Stevens of Michigan.
The Butch-Lewis Act is a pragmatic, bipartisan solution to the
The Butch-Lewis Act is a bipartisan payback to the unions. Any Republican that signs on to this got to have his or her head examined, because all this is very similar to what Barack Obama did in 2009, 2010. This is a payback to the unions. Remember the shovel-ready jobs and the trillion-dollar boondoggle? The Redevelopment Act that was shoved down our throats, that was going to save the United States economy in the thralls of the recession that we were enduring at the time, and it did nothing. That money instead went to the unions, indirectly into the union coffers. It was payback to the unions, and that's exactly what this is. This is payback time to the unions. For example, and their pensions, because their pensions are largely run by municipalities. And municipalities are largely infested with Democrat leadership. And so this money is good money, our taxpayer good dollars, going after the bad. For example, in California, there's something called CalPERS. CalPERS is the public union pension system that is going broke. It's about $150 billion in the red right now. Part of the reason is because they're investing in garbage investment vehicles. But it's being mismanaged completely. And during the recession, when the stock market was tanking in 2009 and 2010, it sold, CalPERS did, many of its positions, and then got back into the market too late, if it got back in at all in some of the positions. Instead, it was putting its money into cockamamie green investments that end up dying, the companies fold, and then the people, of course, who are relying on this money lose their money. So that's why CalPERS is in trouble. And that's what this legislation is all about. It's a bailout of the public sector pension system in California. That's what these people are thinking. That's what the Democrat Party is advancing here. Roll tape.
Employer pension crisis that could have devastating consequences for workers, retirees, businesses.
Stop tape. Devastating consequences, yes, for the mismanagement
and
largely run by Democrat municipalities. It could have devastating effects, and it's a terrible thing, but it's their fault. And there are people in Congress right now, like this gentleman, Scott Pelosi Peters, the 52nd District in California, in Southern California, who was on the city council of San Diego back in the late 1990s and the early aughts. And he was part of the problem. He's part of the near bankruptcy of the pension system in San Diego. They had to go to a completely different system because he knew, among the other people on the city council that they were underfunding this pension system. And now this guy's in Congress, underfunding our United States government and overspending at the same time, underfunding the United States military, overspending this republic into oblivion. This is the Democrat Party's model these days. And this is nothing more than a bailout.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.